Oh, yeah. We're going to the moon, baby. Well, hello there. If you don't know me, my name is Brandon. I'm the founder of the Card Pirates TCG store, aka the Card Pirate Captain. And I make videos like this to document my journey of running an online trading card game store business, in hopes that you might find some helpful and or entertaining information about selling trading cards to strangers on the internet. So if that sounds intriguing, then hit subscribe and we'll see where the TCG wins take us. But without further ado, we got a scanner. And I alluded to this in, I believe, not the most recent video that I put up, but the one prior to that I made all dramatic and intense in the titling. Well, we'll rip the Band-Aid off. Is it awesome? Yeah. And also kind of. Let me explain, because I'm sure that sounds confusing. If you've tuned into the channel before, then you are aware that I have been listing my cards, at least most likely you are aware, by taking pictures with a phone or tablet and then uploading them through the website Card Uploader as the images, and that's basically it. Now, a couple things to note with that, especially now that I have done this scanning process, is that is infinitely slower than I even thought it was. So to lay the groundwork of the reason why the scanner is awesome is simple. It's way faster and extremely consistent. As I've been doing the listing through taking pictures, what I have noticed is, number one, it obviously takes a lot of time and effort and constant attention for me to do that. And it also means that it takes longer for the actual processing side of things, because a full fat image from a phone or tablet takes a while for me to send from that device to my computer, and then also for it to upload to Card Uploader. All in all, from start to finish, to do, let's say, 100 cards takes me at least a half an hour taking pictures, minimum. And assuming I'm doing it with my phone, probably a little longer, because it tends to take longer for some reason for my phone to actually transfer the photos to my computer. I think it's just because my phone is a little bit old. The scanner will scan 22 cards, which is approximately the most that it'll fit in one go, in 40 seconds. So from start to finish, I can do the same amount of cards in a third of the time. I won't bore you with all of the math details of that, but I ran the numbers and then ran them again, and give or take, for the same batch of cards for me to do with the scanner will take me about 3 times as long taking pictures. Now with that, the asterisk that I throw in there of the kind of is for some specific nuances to this specific scanner. So let me roll it back slightly. I got as you saw with the box, the Epson ES400-2. That's the one that I got, and it's one that I had done a little bit of research on prior. No, it is not the infamous Ricoh/Fujitsu 8170 that is essentially the industry standard for scanning cards, but it is also significantly cheaper. So at the time in which I purchased this scanner, pricing is of the Ricoh, and it is sitting somewhere around $700. This scanner was $299. So for less than half of the price, we get close enough, right? At the very least, for the place that we're at in the business at this point. What this was really about is mitigating the inefficiencies of taking the photos, because what I was finding is that it was stealing away time. Jump out of that for a moment. We'll get back to that idea. So the portion of the scanning process that is kind of, as I mentioned, is the fact that the Epson has kind of an issue that tends to exist with a variety of scanners, from what I can tell, in that it likes to sometimes leave scan lines on cards. When I was doing my research beforehand, and I found out that this was pretty much just a thing that this scanner does, and there's technically no way to fully avoid it, or rather to fully stop it, there are some ways you can get kind of around it. The biggest one being that if you scan cards in penny sleeves, that it won't leave the scan lines and your scans come out looking nice and fresh. However, the problem therein lies that I do not just sell regular sized cards. I also sell Yu-Gi-Oh! And Yu-Gi-Oh! It's not gonna do that in a regular penny sleeve, which is all I have access to. There's some gappage. And because of that gap that exists within the penny sleeve when a Yu-Gi-Oh! Card is inside it, it will not feed through the scanner. One of the things that people had mentioned to do in order to scan these cards without getting the lines and to allow penny sleeves to go through them is that you take this top roller out of the scanner and it allows it to run. However, prior to my purchasing of the scanner, I came across a Reddit post. And this Redditor had the scanner and actually discovered that if you load the cards in sideways, you don't have to take out that top roller. And if you still scan them through in penny sleeves, then it'll do the same process and onwards and upwards. Now, there's a couple nuances to that, and I'm not going to go into all the details of how I do the scanning and the whole process. I'll make a separate video on that for a later time, so we'll get back to it. With this scanner as it is, in me doing these scans with the Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards, I had to figure out something that would allow me to do them efficiently without me having to figure out some way to get a penny sleeve to stay put. Well, what I realized is that these scan lines are very, very subtle in most cases, right? I was really almost never having them show up in the scans themselves. They were on the cards after I had scanned them, and I was looking for them, which made them still not super easy to find every time. I really had to hold the card in the light just perfectly to be able to see the scan line. And so what that told me is for a lightly played card, which is basically all the way that I list my Yu-Gi-Oh!, it kind of doesn't matter. These aren't collector's items. These aren't high-dollar Pokemon cards that have a ton of value, and they're not even high-dollar Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards at this point that I'm listing. I'm listing bulk cards, a lot of which are being purchased, I'm sure, to be playable, if nothing else. What does it matter if there's an extremely subtle scan line that shows up on a lightly played card? Well, it's already lightly played. And this did not increase, or rather worsen the condition to moderately played, not even close. You would have to know that the scan line is there in order to find it. And then I realized that I could make it to where the scan line would only ever appear, if at all, on the back side of the card, and that kind of just settled the rest of it. That's the kind of, in a long-winded way. The scanner, though, overall is brilliant. Over the course of the weekend, so I purchased the scanner on Friday. Over the portion of the weekend that I was utilizing it, I was able to create, I think actually more than 500 listings in a relatively short amount of time, and be able to prep them for my entire week of scanning. Because to go back to something I mentioned earlier, I realized that taking pictures of the front and back side of a card, sending them from an app to my computer, and then uploading them to Card Uploader, and then sending them to eBay was a infinitely inefficient process. And it was something that I was only doing because I had to. Now, when I scan them, and it only takes me a couple minutes to scan in 100 some odd cards, I can throw them up there and it happens like that. Because I can realize that time and efficiency, it led me to a point where I was already wanting to go, and it's actually in line with what happened with the label printer. So I reached a point where it was becoming exceedingly inefficient for me to physically cut out, glue, and attach labels to envelopes. It was wasting time. So because of that, and I had reached both the time inefficient prerequisite and the financial ability to do so, I purchased the label printer. The same thing happened with the scanner. So after having the Blockbuster, I think it was a Thursday or Friday or whatever it was, where I had over $300 in sales, I realized that the countdown had started. I could now start looking toward being able to purchase a scanner and be able to get myself on the way to escalating my listings for the business. So, what does this end up meaning for the business as a whole? Well, obviously, things are more efficient now. So, I can create my listings on 1 or 2 day period where I put together as many listings as I want to have for the week, as much as time will allow, which is now a lot more, and be able to focus on other things that both involve the business, involve this channel, and involve personal life stuff. So I had to really kind of take certain things and shelve them because I just wasn't having enough time to be able to invest in them and also put the time into the business that I needed to. But now that the business has paid back a little bit, I can now reinvest some of that time because now I am more efficient with this other time. My plans are as follows. Starting at the minimum this week, I want to do 1 to 2 videos a week on this channel, talking about stuff related to the business and just giving, the same kind of content and better content, and really be able to put some attention toward it that will allow this channel to grow the way I'd like it to. Also be able to get other things done within the business. So researching other software or products that would make the business run better or be more efficient in other areas, namely storage. If you look at that box it was a variety box of chips. It's now where I keep all of the cards. So I had them sorted into multiple boxes before, and so I was able to consolidate them into this one. However, it's still not what I would want it to be, and it's also sitting on the kitchen table. I would much rather be able to put them in row boxes, whether that is 3 or 5. We'll see. I've got some shelving in the storage closet outside that I cleared up, and I believe I should be able to fit at least 2 5 rows, and I believe 3 rows across, which will give me space for, I think if I do 2 rows of it, about 14,000 cards, which would be a good start. That's kind of where I'm going in that, but it gives me some time to be able to focus on those things. And finally, it also means that the money that comes into the business now can really genuinely be for continual upkeep of things, right? I no longer have a large purchase for equipment that I am aware needs to be made at some point. I knew I was going to need the label printer, and it was going to cost me at least $60 to $80 for it. I knew the scanner was going to come up, and at the time, I only really knew of the trustworthy Ricoh scanner, which meant that was going to be a $700 investment potentially, and that was going to be a thing. Now that I have a scanner, I have a label printer, I don't really find myself in a space where I know I'm going to need a piece of equipment, so I can take the earnings from the business and what profit comes of that and reinvest it to inventory, into shipping supplies, into other things that will help the business in a immediately impactful way. These are sort of the supporting characters. They help the business be more efficient in what it's doing, but they mean nothing if the main character doesn't show up and the main character is the cards. That's kind of my 3 bullet points of things that I'm paying attention to now as we move forward. More content, more sort of adjacent things in storage and other sort of softwares and things that can help the business out, doing that research and being able to provide more content in relation to it as well if I discover something interesting, which I might have as far as it relates to inventory and listing to across multiple websites, but I'll let you know once I know some more on that. Of course, more inventory. With all that said, I'd like to have the regular upload schedule really nailed down within the next week or so. So that way I know when I'm going to be listing things, and then I can communicate that, or listing things, when I'm going to be uploading things, and then I can communicate that, and we can just overall have a better experience here on the channel. As of right now, I'm feeling real good about where we are. I know that it won't be super dramatic when I tell you these numbers, but the way I look at it is it's been just over a month since our first sale on June 23rd, and the Card Pirates are feeling good about it. Right now, we are currently sitting at just over 100 orders, over $1,200 in sales. To be clear, that is revenue, not profit. Over 2,400 listings as of current. I have about 400 or so that are scheduled. So by the end of the week, my hopes are that we are breaching that 3,000 listing mark, but obviously it's going to depend on how much sells. I had 10 cards sell this morning that were all individual listings. So that definitely is an ebb and flow, and I'm not minding too much at this point if those listings don't necessarily go to the moon the same way that I would expect. But we're also awaiting some Yu-Gi-Oh! Bulk to be incoming. I still have some plans to be able to procure some Magic and Pokemon bulk in the near future, and that's kind of it. I think we'll maybe go into some other details on some of the things that I've been musing on with the business other than this, but the scanner was kind of a big thing for me from the end of last week, so I wanted to bring it up and tell you all about it. But anyway, if TCG Treasure is what you seek, consider sailing with the Pirates next time. Card Pirate Captain, out.